How's it going, everybody? In this video, I'm going to talk about when is too old to start rapping, right? Or really like building any other project or skill. So, this is a question that I saw the other day, which is basically asking, am I too old to start? And over the years, I've seen a lot of variations of this question with all different age ranges. Now, most of the people watching these videos are somewhere between 18 and 35 or so. But the question to me doesn't really make a ton of sense at the core of it. Like, there's not an age that's too old to start, right? Instead, what I think is important to think about is what it is that you're trying to do and how much time you want to invest. So I think when sort of these thoughts come into people's head around, like, oh, am I too old to start? A lot of the times, what they're actually thinking about is people who have been successful in this field at a relatively young age, right? But a lot of those individuals started really young. So to me, it's more about how much time and effort are you willing and able to put in, and what is it that you actually want to accomplish, right? If you don't care about making a living making music, then it really doesn't make sense to ask what age is too old, right? I didn't start until I was 18 probably, and developed skills over the next few years, like heavily when I was actually investing time in it. But I also didn't ever start making music with sort of the intent of trying to get famous off of it. The thing is, with sort of music or a lot of other skills, like programming, for example, I didn't start programming until I was 25. These skills are not the same as sort of physical skills, right? So if the question was around what age do I need to start training to be a professional basketball player or soccer player, that might be a little bit more strict, right? Because by the time you're in your 50s, like let's say 50s, the chances of you making it into a top level professional athletic division is extremely low. But that doesn't apply to a ton of other skills that are more mentally based, right? There is nothing that made me starting at 18 have more of an advantage than I would have if I started now. The only real difference, and maybe this is what people are really thinking about a lot of the times, is I have a lot more commitments now. Like when I started learning how to do some of this rap stuff, I just didn't have as much going on. I had more time to pour into it. And that's one of the pieces of the equation for how to get good, right? You need to have sort of time to pour into these things and make sure that that time is used in a way that you're actually learning and growing. So, for example, I can't just write, 500 verses about anything. There has to be periods while I'm doing that where I'm looking at things like structure or flow or wordplay so that I can more consciously develop those skills. Now, this doesn't change based on what age you are. The only difference might be that you have more stuff going on. You may not have as much time, right? When I was 18, I was just going to class a few hours a week, and I had plenty of time to work on learning how to rap. So there's really not an age that you're too old to start, but you may have more barriers that you need to move out of the way. But at the same time, that may not be true. Like some people may have had lots of commitments when they were younger and have less now and have more time. So it's really more about dropping into sort of this idea around skill development and thinking about how you develop skills, less so than thinking about a specific age, right? It doesn't matter that much. It really doesn't. I'm sure if you dig around, I don't know any off the top of my head, you can find examples of artists who have been successful later in life for music, especially. Like, it's not something that is age intensive. Now, there may be some other pieces around, like, how do you gain a following, or like what avenues do you have to sort of promote yourself that you may have to learn about or be more familiar with if you want to sort of figure out how to make money doing it. But there's nothing around age that really stops or slows you down. So really, when I hear these questions, I think it's more about sort of your mindset, right? A mindset of feeling behind, right? And that makes sense to a degree. If someone started rapping when they were 5 have 15 years of experience by the time they're 20, and you're thinking, okay, I'm 25, I'm 27, I'm 22, like, should I start now? Again, to me, it really goes back to, like, what is it that you're actually trying to accomplish and what do you care about? If you just want to make music, there's really no reason to factor your age in. If you want to make a living doing this, your age doesn't necessarily matter that much, but how much time and effort you have to invest does. For example, when I switched into programming at 25, I spent the next 3 years just doing programming because I wanted to get good at it as fast as I possibly could. And so I put basically all my time in it. I would go to work. Afterwards, I would study all night. And I did that for 3 years. Same thing for music. Like, if I wanted to become extremely proficient and successful in music right now, I would cut out everything else that I could in life, write and record and put out music every single day, and keep working on specific pieces of feedback or like specific skills, right? Like breaking down sort of the components that I needed to get better at. And I feel like, within, if you're doing that genuinely, not making it up, not sort of saying like, oh, I work on this music stuff all the time when actually you work on it like 3 hours a week. But if you genuinely are spending the majority of your time working on music as much as you possibly can, putting it out there, getting feedback, iterating, I can't see you spending more than 5 years before you're extremely good. Now, a lot of people hear that and they're like, oh, I don't want to do that. But it's the same for pretty much any skill that you want to develop, right? You have to put in the reps. And in that period of time, from, like the 0 to 5 year mark, and that's just sort of arbitrary, but like I'm giving enough of a time that if you really put in the effort, you would definitely be good. Between that period of time, you're going to see lots of improvement. So it's not just going to be sort of, oh, I put in these reps and nothing is happening. If you were genuinely working hard and putting in the time, then you should see improvements. And if you're not, then you need to sort of adjust the approach. In the short term, sort of like forward looking, 5 years seems like an extremely long time. And it could be 3. Well, we could take it down to 3 too, even 2 years, whatever. You'll see huge improvements as long as you're actually working at it all the time. If you're starting as late as, 45, right? You'd be 47, 48 by the time you have enough skill to really feel high talent. And it might not even take that long, and it might take longer. But the whole idea is that if you're willing to put in the time, you can get good at this skill at practically any age, right? So it's not really about being too old. That's not the right way to look at it. The real question is, what are you trying to get at it, and how much time do you want to put into it? So if you're on the fence or like concerned or whatever else, the real meat of the question is sort of internally what you want to commit to, less so than any of these outside constraints, right? I think these are ways that people sort of get out of starting to build skills or work on things by talking themselves out of it. And I've seen that happen. It's happened to me tons and tons of times as a way to sort of not put in effort because it's like, oh, I'm not going to get good at it anyway. But without realistically sort of sitting down and assessing the amount of time and effort that it'll take to reach the thing that I actually want. So hopefully that helps. That's all I've got for this video. See you next time.